In my infinite wisdom, come and watch me stumble through an explanation of how to fix modern India. This loosely ties to my previous video on abundance for the third world, link in the description. Modern India is a sleeping titan, a colossus that has endured 3 centuries of humiliation. Yet, in a tragic twist, its restraints are now self-made. After a long struggle, it has emerged as an independent, sovereign nation. But institutional and psychosocial factors still hold it back from unlocking its true potential. India has many cards to play, but it must play them wisely. Rich in mineral resources and deposits of fertile radioactive material, a future India could go all in, capitalizing on its own resources and successes. The justification from my earlier video still applies. The existence of China is a thorn in the side of the world's largest economy. One can only marvel at China's breathtaking buildup of infrastructure and industry. Every democracy must prepare a response to this shift in global dynamics. India, in particular, has no choice. China and India are neighbors with comparable populations and economies, which naturally invites constant comparison. Things may look dire, but as history has proven time and again, present circumstances rarely dictate the arc of destiny. India still has the opportunity to rise and become a great power on par with US or China, if it chooses to. As I researched this in 2026, the current Indian government has already initiated most of the suggestions I had in mind. Take manufacturing. I wanted to discuss a shift towards more domestic production, and the government has indeed tried with middling results. Some industries like smartphone manufacturing have gained a foothold, but overall, success remains elusive. I also wanted to talk about energizing the country, industry, and manufacturing through a massive buildup of nuclear power plants. India has the world's largest thorium deposits after all. Yet again, this is an ongoing project moving at a snail's pace. The 3-stage plan for a workable nuclear reactor is still stuck at stage 1. There was also a drive to replace China as the world's manufacturing hub, but the headwinds have subsided to reveal that actual job creation and industrial productivity have fallen short of planned levels. So one could argue that it's not a lack of ideas holding India back. On paper, the state, the government, and politicians have done what they could to plug the holes. But plugging the holes is not the right move for a country of India's size and situation. One can clearly see the pattern of chronic underfunding and lack of initiative for key projects that could, in theory, act as linchpin for a total reorientation of the economy. I argue here that India must undergo systemic change to see systemic gains. The rhetoric of abundance is a perfect fit. Why? Because much of India's institutional framework is built on a scarcity-based mindset. Policy decisions and execution are shaped by acute accounting for scarcity, not abundance. When the outlook across India is zero-sum and hyper-competitive, this is only natural. It doesn't help that India moved towards a diversified economy, but only a few sectors succeeded, creating a malformed, import-reliant economy. This import reliance, combined with the government's paradoxical protectionist barriers, has only reinforced the scarcity mindset in the average Indian's mind. Good things are expensive, hard to find, and always come at someone else's expense. This zero-sum thinking is not cultural or social. It is an economic one. Simply put, more stuff must be made in India. first for domestic consumption and then for export. That requires a robust administration that allows individual economic units to engage in free and fair trade, along with streamlined focus on building infrastructure to support industrialization. First, as I just said, India suffers from a scarcity mindset. As I explained in my previous video, this mindset creates restrictive barriers. It extends to India's governance apparatus. India actually has fewer government workers per capita than most countries of comparable size, a ballooning population, and an insufficient administrative capacity. This manifests as scarcity at every level of governance. Even simple administrative tasks become a hassle because government officers are chronically understaffed and under-resourced. At the same time, costs for this skeleton staff are ballooning. Above market rate compensation incentivizes a network of middlemen bureaucrats who engage in rent seeking rather than actual service delivery. The result, inefficient bureaucracy that is expensive to maintain and introduces structural barriers to projects that could benefit the country immensely. Meanwhile, federalism in India has introduced more hurdles to good governance and direct democracy than benefits. Looking as an impartial third party, federalism seems less vital administrative feature and more a vestigial holdover of princely state rule under the British Raj. Thus, I advocate for a simultaneous enlargement of bureaucracy at the municipal level and a gradual reduction of power and administrative burden from state and provincial levels down to municipalities. This would be paired with a dramatic reduction or outright elimination of highly paid, ineffective bureaucratic positions across all levels of government, replaced by a more decentralized decision-making bureaucracy. Importantly, this has to reduce the fiscal burden per government employee while allowing far greater bureaucratic efficiencies and coverage. In my view, this has two advantages. First, it ends the multiple overlapping layers of bureaucratic apparatus in India. It also paves the way for a more direct democracy to replace the Electoral College, an already highly controversial institution. Second, this action directly increases the state capacity, the state's ability to act. The central government could negotiate directly with the municipal councils, bypassing the state as a middleman. This is critical for simplifying large construction projects and aligning investment directives with stakeholders in a clear, straightforward manner. For anyone familiar with India, the above suggestions may seem insufficient, and that's fair. India is caught in a century-long cycle of mismanagement, with many institutions hollowed out for rent extraction rather than public service. I recently saw a Japanese investor in Indian manufacturing complain on social media that the mold for their manufacturing process was being held by authorities. One wonders what factors led to the situation, but it is clear that India still lacks inclusive institutions that welcome newcomers. As I noted in my previous video, bureaucratic barriers are also a byproduct of entrenched industrialists and bourgeois classes erecting obstacles for newcomers, whether in construction or manufacturing. These arise from industrial and trade policies that favor old elites and the already entrenched. Priority must be given to a diplomatic, gradual breakdown of elite influence over government policy. That is easier said than done given rampant corruption at every level. Again, I see institutional corruption as a byproduct of scarcity mindset. Because commodities and goods are hard to come by in India, a whole informal economy has grown within the official one, rife with bribes and black money. To put it politely, it is a messy situation. The abundance mindset may prove useful here, A wealthier population means potential domestic customers and an expanding market, something monopoly capitalists desperately desire. And a wealthy population is typically a byproduct of more inclusive industrial, trade, and economic policies. It is unfortunate that the already entrenched choose to block further societal progress in the name of protecting the status quo. In my analysis, however, preserving the status quo will not address India's structural, economic, and governance issues. This video is made against the backdrop of India's 2026 state election results, in which the BJP has increased its administrative presence in state governments. Unless a seismic scandal or a random event of unparalleled magnitude occurs, it seems safe to assume the BJP will remain a dominant force for a long time. India has been under the Bharatiya Janata Party or BJP led by Narendra Modi for a while now. Modi is a divisive figure, but I give him credit for building a Big Tent political coalition that has been remarkably successful. The BJP has created a political economy that allows it to pursue gradual reforms over 10 to 15 years. Though not ideal, India could use this to their advantage. Of course, I'm not naive. The BJP has tried underhanded methods to expand its presence in the Electoral College. A scheme to increase state capacity in India right now would in practice hand an even stronger union government to them. I am also aware of the actual nature of Modi administration's power and what forces energize the BJP as a political force. At the center lies identity politics, the bane of genuine critical thinking. The BJP promotes a Hindu identity and vehemently suppresses what it sees as threats to that identity: Pakistan, Indian Muslims, or the westernization of younger generations. Bourgeois support for the BJP comes from a desire to uphold the status quo. The bourgeois directly benefit from the state dysfunction. It is not in their interest to seek gradual reforms. From what I have researched, the petty bourgeois strongly supports the Modi-led BJP administration. The public support base for the BJP is highly reactionary, and there seems to be little organic backing for streamlining or systemic reforms. This is an unfortunate combination of political forces that has metastasized into a major political force in India. Populism and ethno-religious nationalism are rarely a wise combination. They often produce echo chambers, rhetoric increasingly divorced from reality, and mass cognitive dissonance, leading to even worse consequences. So what is the verdict? Is India a lost cause? I don't think so. As I said at the start of this video, contemporary circumstances rarely matter in the grand march of history. Japan in the 1800s watched Imperial China's defeat by Western powers and quickly launched its own modernization program, allowing it to stand tall among those same powers. Communist China, emerging from famine, warlordism, a war of aggression, and civil war, transformed into a great power capable of meaningfully challenging the US in under a century. It is true that I do not currently see the political will for reform in India, but that does not mean the path is absent. Abundance reframes scarcity mindset into abundance mindset. This must be a conscious political project for those who seek to reform India. Along with the administrative changes I have prescribed, the main priority should be to reframe bourgeois insecurity about losing status quo privileges by showing that a strong economy and a robust domestic demand are good for business. That is easier said than done. I wish luck and well wishes to those who seek to reform India. Thank you for staying until the end. I would love to hear your thoughts. If you feel strongly or think I've gotten something wrong, comment below. Thank you.